Hello everyone. How is everybody? Assalamu alaikum. We'll just wait so that some of the members can join. And if you join, just let me know in the comments that you guys are able to hear me. I'll just check that. Yeah, and if you can hear me clearly, because it's a new laptop again. Net is disclaimer, the net is pathetic, and I'm really sorry. I tried figuring it out somehow, but I know it's going to give me a hard time today. Anyways, Assalamu alaikum and Eid Mubarak, everyone. I have missed my members. How are you? How is everybody? How are the kids doing? Great, my voice is clear. Superb. How the kids doing? I have missed you all. Yeah, it's good to see. It's good. I can't see you, but again, I can still feel that I am having a conversation with so many people, and I've missed doing live sessions, and I'm glad that I'm back. It's just that there were so many things going on. First, that the Ramzan was ending, and I can't say that we were going back to the normal routine because there was no normal routine. But I think we setting back to the pre-Ramzan quarantine. I think I am fine. How are you? So that was going on, and then other than that, I was part of an international summit for pediatric therapists, which was so good, and and there were so many members who booked my talk, so I'm thankful. And those who did, is this replay option, so you can go back and visit that. So it was great. I was the only one from Pakistan there, and it was superb. It just ended last night, so I'm coming back to the routine, and there are few things more happening. So other than that, I have started the new segment for my page called Embrace Neurodiversity. If you have never not seen the post, it's in the announcement section. You can go and check it out. Invite and interview people who are dealing with any kind of different ability and are coming under the heading of neurodiversity, and families who are struggling with, and not just struggling, they have deal with it in a very positive way, and they are very inspiring and motivating. And I always believe that if you meet people who are having the same issues, it makes you feel better that you're not alone. That's one of the main target of my page. So okay, so I have talked a lot about myself and what been happening. Now super excited for today's session. First, that I'm back and I'm talking to you guys. Secondly, I am going to join screen with one of my, again, fellow IPP member, and she is incredible. I have shared, and she has also shared many of her articles on our page. So let me join her, and then she can give you her introduction. Assalamu alaikum.
Hi.
Hello, Falak. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Long time.
Yeah, it was just so hectic, and I'm just so glad to be back and doing live sessions.
I absolutely love what you're doing. I mean, this page is, it's amazing, The team you have, the sessions you do. Although I don't hear all of them, I just skip through and I listen to what interests me. But absolutely amazing. Yeah. Problem? Hello?
That's okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Falak. Means a lot. And I'm glad that you are part of my page and you are doing a session today. And again,
Thank you.
just saying that, Falak, my net is not well today. It's bothering
Okay.
me a lot. So I'm sorry that if I'll hang up in between. So if
Okay. No.
if that happens, you just continue with the flow.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, starting with Falak, tell us about yourself.
Uh, okay. I'm one of those who absolutely hates this question, but anyways, well, I'm a counselor. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I clarify that at the very beginning. I stopped practicing with disorders and everything a long ago. But I am a counselor. I'm working as a counselor. I've started my own practice where, day-to-day issues. So I'm sure you very well know difference between a counselor and a clinical psychologist and a counselor. So, and I have actually, the reason why I wrote that article, and of course one of the things was Mother's Day, but and that I have had clients come to me talk about their mothers especially who are so involved with their child that they sort of put themselves at a back burner. And that was one of my inspirations to write that article. Other than that, for me, I am teaching at IBA as a visiting faculty. I've taught at IPP before that. I was a faculty at IOBM before that. I've worked with underprivileged schools. I work with a lot of different NGOs and a lot of different organizations to spread awareness on mental health and just basically work hard to remove the stigma, right, that we all face.
Yeah, and I'm so proud.
Okay, I think your
We
internet
are
went again.
going to be able to learn something from you today. So
I hope so.
the article, I think I just want to start with that why this session, what inspired me to do this session was your article that you wrote about parenting and how parenting with children with special needs is different and difficult in what ways, and how can we actually make it easier for us. So I was really inspired because I can relate to it very well.
Okay, I guess Tuba's internet has again gone. So, since we were talking about the article, she was saying what inspired her. I already spoke about what inspired me. Um, I have personally observed, like I said, different parents, especially mothers, go through. Um, Sorry, I was just talking since your internet went off again.
It's oh God, it's terrible. I'm so sorry about it.
It's
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
I
Anyways,
completely
I just
understand.
wanted to start with the first question, Falak, that
Mhm.
how is parenting with special needs different from normal parenting, as we say, or the society says normal
Yeah.
parenting?
Actually, I would first try to say, okay, let's remove this word normal, right? I mean, we don't know what normal is. We all have our quirks, we all have our issues. But yes, societal
Yeah.
norms हमारा बहुत चीज़ें dictate करते हैं, which we've sort of learned to live with, and that causes a lot of issues, in my opinion. Eventually, that word is really, really, I hate that word. I honestly am. But how is it different? I'm just going to start about talking about as when you hear about the fact that you're going to have a child. I think that's when our expectations start to form. So as humans we have a lot of expectations as parents, as a mother, as a father. We start with oh okay mera ladka hoga ya ladki hogi, but this is how it's going to be and
Hmm.
this is how I'm going to raise them. I'm going to put them in this school. I'm going to but okay, I let them choose their career, but इस स्कूल में, इस कॉलेज में इस तरह से वो पढ़ेगी, इस तरह से इस तरह से वो पढ़ेगी, इस तरह से वो all those plans that we start making. And then it comes down to when you're told that okay, your child has a sort of a special need, whether it's a psychological issue, whether it's just not being able to hear, not being able to speak, anything else, right? Anything. There are 10 million things that it could turn out to be. And that's when
No,
I've
no.
heard mothers say that, our dreams came crashing down and we didn't know how to cope with it. So, I mean, that is the first part, right? It was a lot of this crashing down sentence is something that actually stayed with me, that we just made those expectations and we held them up so high. We wanted this so bad, whether it was, I could not achieve it, so I want my child to achieve it, or I want my child to be a doctor, an engineer. I mean, the typical things that we see. And that's when the first step is that crashing down. Even sometimes during pregnancy, with the tests that now doctors can do, uh, I think there are different tests that can actually tell you whether your child has Down syndrome or some other issues, especially if both parents are, have certain DNA may, yeah, they have a thalassemia, or there's so many things that come up these days. And then again, they say that if you have both parents have this certain thing or a certain issue, then the child is more likely to be deaf, or not be able to speak, or not be able to see, blind, anything. And again, that's when actually I've heard parents say, we were deciding to should we even have this child or not. Hmm. Are you I mean, how important is that child, that if that child is blind, then why not have him or her? So the first step is during the pregnancy period, where they start questioning, okay, if I know that my child is going to have this issue, should I go ahead with the pregnancy or not? Or should we go ahead with having this child or not? Then comes the time when you eventually, maybe at age 3, age 4, you start noticing that they're not hitting the typical milestones, or there is some, issue with social interaction, or too much of hyperactivity, or anything that we talk about. And then again, your pediatric doctor says, or you go to you consult different psychologists and everything, and you find out, okay, there's something is there. Maybe the psychologist diagnoses something. Jo bhi hai, at the end of the day, again, it's it hits you, okay, my child has this issue. Now, how am I going to deal with it? It becomes this thing, what am I going to do? So what starts off is this, this vicious cycle of me that comes in. Me, am I at fault? Is it because of me that my child has this diagnosis? Is it me who is to blame? And then eventually, or sometimes even our society does this. Is it parents can do this, parents-in-law can say this, even sometimes husbands go ahead and say कि तुम्हारी वजह से ये हुआ. So the acceptance part, the whole initial part is very, very difficult. And then it comes to,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, everything we've all thought about or spoken about, and a lot of people have read about the stages of grief. In a way, I say you can equate it to that, because when we see our expectations fall down, we actually go through those stages of grief.
Hmm.
So, just till you reach acceptance, and then once probably you've reached acceptance, can you go ahead and parent your child in the way that that child needs it.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think this is exactly what is the essence, what we need. Hello? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you. Yeah. That's what we need,
Okay.
acceptance, totally.
And like talking about like when I was reading your article,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing, the most important, mostly when I read articles, is mostly about the primary caregivers. Caregivers are mothers.
Yes.
So is that true that the mothers of children with are at more risk of getting developing any kind of a disorder like anxiety, depression, and why is it so?
So, primary caregiver, I'm going to use that term rather than mother, because again, I've seen in cases of divorce or in cases where the mother has passed away, the primary caregiver was once the daddy and once it was the father. The two cases that were, that I have really been involved in. So, primary caregiver in most societies, not even just our society, in most societies, is the mother. And here, the mother is, or the primary caregiver is sometimes more prone, yes, because um, research, like I wrote in that article, a lot of research has been done on this, and they all say that, the words that the mothers used were, I feel burdened, I feel an absence of normal, again the word normal, right? Or I look at other children and I feel like mera bacha ye kabhi nahi kar payega, my child will not be able to achieve this milestone or come first in class or something like that. So there's a lot of comparison then that comes in. Then there's fatigue. The mother is the one who's, so in most cultures what we do see, and especially if I talk about our culture, eventually the breadwinner is the father. If any person, any parent has to leave work to be with the child, it's going to be the mother. It is, this concept of stay-at-home fathers is very rare world over anyways. But so again, the mother is at home, then again, she loses contact with things that she enjoyed doing as well. So it's not just about constant worry about the child, it's not just about constantly caring about the child or making sure if he has sensory overload, or how to deal with his outbursts or overwhelming periods. But it's also about the mother, right? Here you have to see the primary caregiver. If you're telling that, okay, she leaves her job, it's probably
Yeah.
something she really enjoyed. That makes you feel like, okay, mera dimag ab, that feel that where am I going to use what I learned and my knowledge and every. So that one thing. Then it's a loss of social contact, because when you are
Yeah.
working, you have people you are interacting with. You have, even if it's not close friends like colleagues, and even if you get a chance to meet your friends, it's not the same thing when you get out of the house and you meet people every day. Then it's constant same conversations with children and with with your spouse, or with parents-in-law or parents. The conversation is very limited to certain things that you all enjoy. But when you're out in the world, in a way, when you are interacting with a lot of different people, you hear a lot of different viewpoints, you hear a lot of different opinions, whether it's about anything in the world for that matter. But it just stimulates you intellectually. So a lot of, like, in a way, I what I was told was, my
Yeah.
big world became much narrower when I had to leave my job. So if in that narrow world you add a child who's slightly more difficult to handle, it becomes like this overburdening, overwhelming thing for the for primary caregiver, which then becomes, sometimes they don't know how to manage it. So then comes the knowledge of, okay, if I am going through this, if I
Yeah.
don't know how to, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling anxious, then what do I do about it? That is absent, because then again the focus is so much on that child. And that is one of the reasons I wrote that article, is often we see,
Yeah.
and a lot of even your videos, I'm going to say, was so focused on how to help the child, right? If this is happening, how do we help the child? If it's an off day, or if it's lockdown, how do we help the child? How do we keep the child engaged? Everything is about the child. Where are the parents in this?
Hi. Yeah. Yeah.
We tend to often ignore
Absolutely.
these
And I
parents,
think
right? And yeah.
yes, yes, and I think this is where uh, we need to focus more on. And I remember once I did a session with Lorianne, and I did about self-regulation for parents, that why they need to be grounded and more self-regulated while dealing with children. And then second is your session for mothers, because I think this is what, and I'll hopefully incorporate more about, yes, how parents should deal with their emotions, because directly or indirectly with my also experience, I've seen my emotions and my sons getting better when I was dealing my emotions better.
Yes. There's this term that I recently, when I'm reading a lot, I read compassion fatigue. We are so totally empathizing, sympathizing, so compassionate about the child, right?
Yeah.
Both the parents, let's say, not even just the mother, but if both the parents, it, that intense amount of compassion, that intense amount of caring, but is he asleep? Is he awake? Is she asleep? Is she enjoying herself? Is she having a breakdown? Anything that it leads you to fatigue, and that fatigue we don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Primary
Yeah.
caregivers are at most because are also affected because they end
And
up
I
being the
think this is
advocate for
so,
care.
and it's very, I think not just with,
Not just with, sorry.
I'm saying that it's not just like parents with the who are dealing with children with special needs. I think in general, parents and mothers, they become so, like, they feel happy when the child is happy. They feel
Hmm.
like a failure when child is not able to do something.
You know,
They
I'll
don't,
say
they just
this.
associate all the feelings with the child, and that
I'm
is
going to
when
interrupt you.
the
Sorry.
trouble starts.
I'm going to interrupt you. I was again.
Sorry.
I attended another seminar on mental health awareness, and this psychologist there, and I'm good. I don't sorry forget the name, but I remember she said parenthood is probably the only job without a degree, and everybody is becoming a parent. I'm like, okay, there's no preparation. Everybody, obviously, people become parents, but they don't know how to parent. So you become a mother or a father, but caring for the child and how to care for yourself along with it, and not totally becoming your life should not surround your
Yeah.
child, your and also acknowledging that your child is not your therapist. At the end of the day, parents, I see, you know they tell everything to their child.
Yes.
This is happening and this is what my life was like. And so parenting is, yes, it's a lot focused on the child, but we have to understand that you are also important because like you said, if you're not happy when you're in a bad mood, it reflects on your
Yeah.
child.
Yeah. And this is, I think, uh, this is such a small thing, but when I changed and I started focusing on that, it really helped so in so many other domains. uh, if I talk about myself, if I talk about my child, in both, and even my relationship with family members, that also improved. Because then,
Yes.
what mothers do, when initially when I got to know about my son's diagnosis, my reaction was, I need to fix it, I can cure it, and I will make him, like, to back to the standards normal. And that is what I was doing wrong, because
Hmm.
I was making unrealistic expectations from myself.
Okay. When you said, back to the standards and normal, I would ask, what is that standard and what is that normal? Again, we've defined this by the
There's
society, right? And
exactly,
that's
there's
what
no
I
standard.
exactly. But I do also agree that when we talk about acceptance, when we talk about, okay, uh, how does acceptance also come? The first question is, you have to keep aside those standards. You have to keep aside those, put those completely away, pack them up in a box if you can, whatever
Yeah.
method you use. But understanding that these standards, these benchmarks, these societal norms do not apply here. But because we've been brought up with the same societal norms, same values and thoughts, and this is how कि बड़े को salam karna hai. But if someone has a social issue and they cannot interact socially very well, even saying salam to a bada is difficult. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to understand that this one step, this minor step that we all say is very easy for most of us, is not easy for that child, right? And then what we do, sorry, is that if that child did not say salam to the elder, then you scold him or you punish him or you make him feel bad. Again, we are not helping the child here, nor are we helping ourselves, because we think that it reflects back on badly on us. So with parents, another thing that I've observed is, oh my god, my child doesn't do this, or doesn't say, like I said, doesn't say salam to the elders, or doesn't come first in class, or doesn't pay attention to the teacher in class, anything, and then it reflects badly on me. This is what I've brought up my child to be. Why are you blaming yourself, right? We end up blaming a lot of it on ourselves. Even when I was talking about the diagnosis period, I've heard mothers question, was it that I did not take proper nutrition that my child has Down syndrome? Was it that I did something, or I went out to party, or I went out, I was a little not careful, did I walked too much? We start questioning everything we did. And that induces a lot of feelings of guilt and, sadness and depression and everything. I'm guilty, I'm the one who did wrong. But who's telling you did wrong? Again, these are the societal norms, and this is what we've brought up with, unfortunately. So a lot of it is just the vicious cycle of the culture and the society. We experienced it, we were rewarded for being normal, and now we believe that that's normal. So a lot of our, it's that behaviorism factor where we've sort of been shaped to be what we are today. All right. It seems like Tuba's internet is acting up again. So um, we were talking about, again, I said compassion fatigue. It talks about burnout. I have to say this again and again. Um, when we hear about the diagnosis, or when we are talking about whether it's during pregnancy period, whether it's after pregnancy, there is a roller coaster of emotions, which I generally say. It's a huge roller coaster of emotions that we end up going through. Sorry, I carried on since your internet went off. Okay. So yeah, I was just talking about the roller coaster of emotions, and we again don't know how to deal with these emotions. So there's one thing that I
No, please do. I'm trying to meanwhile fix my net. I have asked my someone to try to connect with that. Meanwhile, just carry on. So I'll keep. I'll ask you questions, but I just want to switch the device so that it might work better.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just
So
remove
what?
myself for the screen for a while and.
Okay. Okay. So what we were talking about is the roller coaster of emotions, and like I mentioned before, it's the stages of grief that I mentioned. We go through that literally, because if you talk about a mother who hears about her diagnosis, there is no, this is not possible. Am I to blame? Then we start bargaining with God. Ke alam, if you treat my child or make him or her back to normal, then I'll do this, or I'll be a better Muslim, or I'll be a better Christian, whatever. I mean, religion doesn't matter, as long as we start bargaining with God that you make my child normal, you give him his strengths back, or make him so whether it's going blind or whether it's being diagnosed on the spectrum, anything, and we have this bargaining stage. And then we have this grief stage where we realize that this bargaining is not going to work also. So we go through a lot of these emotional upheavals. It's an up and a down and an up and a down, and then the final stage, I would say, often is acceptance. And that acceptance comes with when we sort of completely let go of our expectations. Societal norms will not apply. Yes, we have to discipline the child. Yes, we have to raise him as, or her as, raise them as a good human being, but that does not mean that all expectations is going to be. It does not mean that he or she is going to be a doctor when she grows up. Could be she becomes an amazing musician. So why is that? So a lot of our societal expectations, like I keep saying, are also grounded on the education that my child needs or receives. I would again say, because of this whole cycle of schools, and I mean, of course, education is important, but also accepting that your child will have a different, maybe, sort of intelligence as compared to someone else's child. Um, Again, research shows that children on the spectrum are often have a different sort of intelligence as compared to, children on the spectrum have shown to have very high musical intelligence. They've shown to have very high mathematical intelligence. So why not accept, and, if they want to learn to dance, if they want to learn to play music, why do you force them to go to school and be mathematicians or doctors? So here again, it is part of the parents that we let go. of those expectations. It's like we're clenching really hard onto them, because that's how I gained my acceptance in the society.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I don't know whether I
And I
spoke
think one of
sense.
the mistakes that parents.
Yeah.
No, no, no. I was listening to you meanwhile when I was figuring out the internet. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry about it. This is such a
It's okay. It
mess these
happens.
days.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it happens.
so one thing that what were you saying? It recalled me that one of the mistakes that parents do, that I wasn't able to do this, so I have this dream that my child will fulfill the dreams
Mm,
I
mm,
had for myself.
yeah.
So that is one of the mistakes also.
It's a lot about, I don't know, hamare,
It's
like,
mostly about the unrealistic expectations that we give,
truly, truly, truly.
give to ourselves and then our children.
I am good at, it's a whole, not just the parent, but it comes from the grandparents also. Oh, my grandchild is going to
Yeah.
be a doctor. Oh, you're teaching him to learn to dance. Oh my God, that
Yeah.
is so un-Islamic. And I mean, where does all that come from? That's again just the society and how we've made it, right? And how we've accepted it and grown. And as people who are, as a parent, and this moment which I'm going to come back to, is in this stage, this is where also it affects the primary caregiver, and eventually both parents also, because they become advocates for their child. If you are supporting your child, you start fighting with dada dadi, nana nani, you have issues with school. If I know this once it happened
Mm.
with someone, and this is not
Yeah.
even a child with special needs, but some, I'm not going to name the school, but someone I know, she came home crying. This kid, she was at that time, I think she was 10, 12 years old, or just just a teenager, and she loves to dance. So in Karachi, she'd been studying with Shima Kirmani and all those, T2F and everything. And her school teacher, one of the teachers said, "This is totally un-Islamic. ये तो तुम्हारे parents बिल्कुल गलत कर रहे हैं." And she came home crying. And the question arises, and of course in this case also, when the parent is the advocate for the child, and in special needs, you feel the burden even more, that my child cannot express, cannot explain what he or she wants, or how to go about this is my passion, this is what I want to do. And that is why we become the fighters for our child. And again, that's an added burden, or an added factor that leads to fatigue with parents. So yes, coming back to that initial question that you had asked, are primary caregivers more at risk? Yes, they are more at risk. But there are ways to learn how to handle these risks. There are ways to learn how to cope with these risks. They are more risk of becoming anxious. They are at more risk of psychological distress or depression. There's a feeling of helplessness that again links with depression.
Mm.
But one of the things that needs to be done is, which you have definitely done, is build a lot of resilience in yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 I thought that. Um,
Hello.
yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear
Hello.
you clearly.
Are you able to hear
Okay.
me now?
Yeah, I can hear you
So sorry
clearly.
about that. Okay. So next thing that Falak, I really wanted to. I think this is one of the. I think the question that I was mostly looking forward to was the in your articles that you mentioned that parents experience this roller coaster of emotions, including grief, self blame, anger, and worry. So, and I think everyone goes through this in a different hierarchy sometimes. but they do feel each and every emotion of this, and they go through this roller coaster ride. Sometimes I think I've dealt with parents who have like years been stuck in self blame and grief. So how to come out of it? Is there a way? How can they cope with it?
Okay, so coping strategies. So most of the coping strategies, unfortunately or fortunately in a way, also deal with coming to acceptance, and then what to do after I have accepted that this is what my life is going to be, which is with a child with special needs. uh, the roller coaster of emotions, whether it's worry, whether it's self-blame, whether it's anxiety, it all
Hello?
comes with the initial diagnosis, right? Like I said before, with the initial
Hello?
diagnosis, and I linked it here to the stages of grief. After that bargaining time, after coming to a realization that this bargaining is not going to work,
Oof.
after coming to a realization that this is how my life is probably going to be, and this is how I have to lead with it, then we also come with, okay, can I deal with this as an individual? How much of it can I deal with it as an individual? What are my strengths that I can use to deal with it, right? So if you are someone who's very resilient, if you're someone, so when I keep talking about resilience, sorry, I'm going to take a little step back and also say that there are these vicious thinking cycles that we become involved in, as whether mother, father, when we are parenting a child with special needs, and it's not, regardless of a child with special needs, we just have a tendency to become involved in certain vicious thinking cycles. These cycles could be trying to understand me. Either it's me, that one of the cycles that we generally talk about is I'm to blame, I have to now do this, I have to take care of my child, everything is about because of me. So that me is one of the thinking cycles. Another one that we generally talk about is them. What are they going to do? How are they going to treat my child? How is the school going to treat, or the parents going to treat, or the uncles and aunts and everybody? So that them, everything is happening, everything that links to my child, how is they going? So that's another thing. Like, we keep worrying about them, and whoever those them are. It can be 10 million people, the whole society, right? Then we talk about this factor of mind reading, which I'm going to say, which often it links with the them cycle, where I feel like, my the teacher is probably thinking this about my child, or this is what my brother is thinking about my child when he didn't say salam to them. So I'm always constantly trying to read the thoughts of this other person that my child is interacting with. So, and the last is, I would definitely say, catastrophizing, which we all do at some point. We look at the worst case scenario. We are going to catastrophize everything in our life, and that's the vicious cycle we get set in. We, start, okay, ye bura hua, agar my child did not say salam, that means that he's not going to be respected. People are going to think badly about him. People are going to say he doesn't respect elders. People are going to believe that his issues are so pronounced and he should be put in. Maybe the catastrophizing goes to that extent that he should be institutionalized, and so we catastrophize every teeny tiny behavior or every teeny tiny event, and we link it to, oh, this is what's going to happen, then the worst case scenario is going to happen. Here I'm going to say that that cycle we have to learn to break. Eventually we have to learn to break these cycles. And some of the ways, for instance, one of the ways to break this thought pattern is that I take a step back and I say, okay, what happened? My what evidence? So three ways that I generally talk about is evidence, reframe, and plan. So what evidence do I have that the catastrophizing scenario that I'm actually thinking of in my mind is going to actually, has never happened before. So once, when my child 3 years ago did not say salam to the elder, nothing really happened. So I have evidence about that, that my siblings, or or the uncles and aunts of my child, they all understand. So we look for evidence that counters our thinking pattern, or we reframe it that, okay, my child is has some.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. I kept going on.
Oh God.
All right. I just kept
Oh,
going on. I was like, okay, whenever you come back,
I
it's
think this is the time for me to control my emotions and regulate because I'm so frustrated. I'm so,
very
thank you
true.
so much. I think for today's session you are the guest and you are the host. I think I am completely not a part of it.
I hope I'm playing the roles properly. I'm not getting confused. Okay, what am I right now? Okay. Yeah, sorry. I was talking about the traps we get involved in. And so generally here maybe we can try ourselves to reframe what's going on, or if your partner is supportive. Now in this whole scenario, one thing that I have sort of skipped over also is how important it is to have a
I
supportive
I have
partner.
I have
Sorry, I missed what you're saying.
I have no clue, Falak. I'm really sorry. If I go again, you just continue with the questions.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. um yeah, I was talking about the fact that one thing that I did miss, skip
Okay.
over is a supportive partner. When we are
Oof.
trying to get out of our thinking cycle of all the negativity that we become involved in, one of the ways is to either I take a step back and try to reframe what myself, or sometimes even a partner can help me do that. So if your partner is very supportive, if he understands or she understands what's going on, you do try to reframe those actions of your child and say, okay, or reframe my own thoughts that it's okay if my child did not get an A star in maths or did not get an A star in English, and probably he's good at these things. So you look at positivities. You have to. So here there's a bit of practice that comes in. It's a learned behavior that parents themselves have to learn to look at positives, look at silver linings, in a way, and that is learned. So it comes with time. It doesn't happen immediately. And the last thing that I was going to say is, yes, plan. Sometimes, although I'm not saying plan, I'm going to make my child a doctor, or I'm going to make my child an airline pilot or anything. That is not the planning I'm talking about. I'm talking about if something happens where I'm called in by the school or I'm called in by a teacher, I have to advocate for my child, yes, but that does not mean I have to do it. I have to create a fight. There are ways of doing it. There are ways of managing situations with your child. There are ways of, I know that my child is going to, if I predict, for instance, so one of my clients, a mother of a child on the spectrum, I clearly remember that, because of children who are on the spectrum, they have a lot of routine. They get anxious very easily when things go out of routine or when there's a little change in things. So one thing that happened with him was he hated going out on the roads in Karachi, right? This is before COVID times, of course. So the traffic was something that the child just could not handle. And on top of it, when a signal came, and especially those teen talwar and those do talwar ka signal, I don't remember, but the signals major, when they came, he would get really anxious. Oh, it's going to take an extra 5 minutes for us to reach home, or it's going to take an extra 15 minutes that we are stuck here. So it had to be planned in such a way. So, and you cannot plan signals, you cannot plan for the traffic in Karachi for sure. But whenever they used to go out, the mother was used to be with the son, and every time they would come close to a signal and they would see that it's already red, the car would slow down so that eventually by the time they get close to the signal, it becomes yellow, or close to ending. Or do you have that countdown these days? So it's 12, so it's 3 or something, so that the car has already slowed down, and by the time they reached the signal, his anxiety was like, okay, we're still moving, and it was slightly more manageable. So she planned, and this was something that the mother realized after noticing that her child becomes anxious when he gets stopped at red light signals. So she planned it in a way that, you know, she taught the driver or herself that this is not, I'm going to try my best to manage this. And how can I manage it? If it's green and if it's recently turned green, we go as fast as we can without having any kind of an accident or causing any issues. But if it's a red, then I know that it's recently turned red. So I slow down so that by the time I reach the signal, it is close to becoming green or yellow. So small changes that the parent themselves will have to do, and that is when they have to plan these things. So when we try to get out of these, you know, cycles that I talked about, 3 things that I believe have worked is looking at evidence, reframing certain things, and then planning them.
Yeah. And Falak, there's this someone who is saying that can you talk a little more parent friendly? I think terminologies maybe they didn't understand. So can you just explain this in a more layman way?
Okay, so just for instance, if I go back to this one example, the only thing was that, you know, if you know that this is something that causes anxiety for your child, right? Another example I can give is the mother told me that, you know, he has to be bed by, I think, 10:30, something like that, right? His bedtime was 10 o'clock, let's say. And if we are in Karachi and if it's Eid and if it's an off day and before COVID times, the Dawate and everything, all those parties, there was no chance of being in bed by 10. And if there was a dinner at our place, he would literally start saying, can we switch off the light? 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 In a way telling guests, please leave. And also that, you know, it's time for my bed. Here, she knew this is going to happen. Right. So once you've experienced this a couple of times, once basically parents learn to understand that, okay, this is my child's need and this is the routine that they have to follow. So again, if I am hosting a dinner at my place now, maybe I can better plan for it. Either you talk to your child about it. If you feel that your child is, you know, at that stage where he or she can understand. So if they've grown older, but if it's a young child, they will not be able to understand so many things. Then how do I plan for it? You have to use techniques of either behaviorism, you know, reward, kar do aap, or anything, or simply tell them 10 o'clock, you are in your room for bed. So your routine is 10 o'clock in room, whatever is going on outside. So, you know, again, making things easier for yourself. Okay, I've trained this is what my child has to do, and I can go ahead with what I need, which is also the mother needs. Or if you've planned a dinner at your place, you need that. That's a reason. There's some reason why you did it. So do not shut down everything or people from your life just because of your child. What we have to do is we have to manage or combine these 2 things.
Yeah, absolutely. Falak, there's this one question. I talk about it a little.
Your voice is getting cut. Hello? Hello?
I just say it. I think it's not showing up on the screen. Yeah, yeah. This is a question.
Some parents are not okay, cannot accept the child the way he or she is. How a psychologist can convince them, or how a therapist can counsel them. Okay, that is probably one of the most difficult things, very honestly. I have unfortunately seen parents leave their Down syndrome children at Darul Sukoon. I have seen them leave them at a lot of these NGOs and you know, homes for, and it truly is heartbreaking. But you cannot force acceptance on anybody. That is, you know, you cannot. But yes, if the parent has agreed to come for counseling, that is the first step, that they want to maintain a relationship with this child. Right? The parent themselves have if there's as a psychologist, if they've approached you as a counselor and they've come to you for help, that, you know, I don't know, my child has been diagnosed, but I don't know whether I can manage it. I don't know whether I can have a child like this. I don't know how I can live with a child like this. That is through therapy you can help. But first step is the parent themselves wanting that relationship. If the parent
Yeah.
does not want that relationship, you can't force it on anybody, unfortunately. um, it's probably the bitter reality of our society in a way that they just, I mean, I've seen AD has when I was a few days, just a few days, I could not do work with AD for long, but when I did, a couple of the people there had, the mother wanted the relationship, but the family, because for whatever family pressures, I won't even go into that, she would come and visit the child at the center, but could not take the child home.
Mm, this is so sad. And not just, I think, Falak, in this culture, I just got to know, I was when I YouTuber
You're getting
who
cut off
adopted
again.
a child.
Yeah.
Hello, can you? A
Yeah.
YouTuber, famous YouTuber, adopted a child from China, if I'm not wrong. And after 3 years, when the child got diagnosed with autism, she gave him back to the orphanage, and it was
Oh.
such an heartbreaking news. I think it just happened. And she, the way she was justifying it on her
Mm.
channel, that why she had to do that and give him away, it was so heartbreaking. And at least in that situation, I could say that that was an adopted child. People give away their own child.
I, for one, think that I'm actually very, very pro adoption. So I believe that if you have taken a child, it's your child. Even if later on you're diagnosed with something, anything happens, आपका खुद का बच्चा होता, I mean, if you had given birth to this child and God forbid he or she had an accident and a brain injury or something, would you give away that
Yeah,
child also later on? I mean,
yeah,
adoption, if you are adopting, that you just have to accept that that is my child. If you can't, you do
absolutely.
not deserve a child. That is the reason why probably God did not give you kids then. I mean, I start thinking in that sense. I don't know whether I'm right, but yeah, I think sometimes.
Yes, and unfortunately, there are so many, and I think if we go to places who are keeping children like these, there's so many stories that after seeing that child was physically, because in a neurological disorder you can't know when the child is born, but yes, there's a physiological uh, like limitation with the child, and it is visible. There's so many
Hmm.
parents who just give it away. And I think maybe that is where maybe awareness, what I believe is awareness and talking about these issues might help them to understand that this is going to be more difficult, the regret that they might hit an afterlife, that why they
I
had to do this,
sometimes
and this is
wonder whether
very,
they
very
regret
sad.
or not. We've gone a little on a different topic,
Yeah,
but I do
maybe.
wonder whether they regret. I mean, I've seen, again, I'm going to, but I saw a couple adopt a baby, and then within a month they returned it. I don't know what happened, but they said that, they got checkups done and everything, because that was part of the procedure internationally, that you get checked, and then within a month, so something came in that checkup, but they got another baby within the next year, and now that baby is healthy, so they kept her. And
Oh my
I just
goodness.
cannot.
Oh my.
I,
And there, now on that note, I would say that I know few, actually over here, I wouldn't say the name, but there's this lady, I'm so proud of her, that she have two sons, both are autistic, and now she has adopted three more children on the spectrum, and she is training them, doing therapies and all of that. So there are people, again,
yeah.
few, but yes, at least people who understand that how beautiful these children are in their own way. We just need to understand and look in a like a, it's just like going to a theater watching a 3D movie without the 3D glasses. Unless and until you wear them, you will see the real beauty.
Yeah, yeah, true. The, I mean, I think all children are beautiful, special, not. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
how you. But when you say about that lady, I know a person also. She had three daughters, and she really wanted a son. I mean, that was just nothing to do with wo wala kissa ke hame beta chahiye, but she just really wanted a son. So after having three daughters, and they were grown up and they're teenagers. So when she was like around in her late 40s, she adopted a child. And later on, he was diagnosed to be on the spectrum. But she's dedicated her life to him, along with having to homeschool him, because initially Karachi the schools were not, it took time for awareness to come in our culture also, and to accept that sometimes you need psychologists on board in schools and everything. So at that moment, when she couldn't find a proper inclusive education school, she homeschooled him. She took him to Canada and did some work with some school in Canada. So he's studying online here while she's helping him, and it's a beautiful relationship. And she, he's going for therapy, he's going for everything. So she's very, very careful with him. But yeah, there are people like that also in this world, which is, I guess we need
Which
more
give
people
us
like that
some hope
actually.
that there is. And I feel like that, for instance, the one thing you said, and I agree to it, that you can't impose acceptance, empathy on someone. But I think as professionals, we play a very important role in while dealing with parents. That I'll just explain one thing for my son. I remember when I got to know about his diagnosis first, that I had to. I think it took me a lot of time to reach to the right people. So in that in between, I met a lot of wrong professionals, a lot of
Yes.
wrong professionals.
Yes.
And because I am a psychologist myself, so I had this filter to understand who is a better professional. But unfortunately, not everyone is a psychologist and educated enough to understand that. But I've seen in many clinics and many organizations that the way professionals talk to parents. I remember there was one. I was waiting. I got the appointment for about after 2 months, and I was waiting in the waiting area. And the professional came out with a little girl. She was from a very lower community, and she was wearing a scarf, and she was. I think she wasn't well, so her nose was running. She was coughing. She wasn't well, and the way she just like rashly pushed her towards the father. अब सफाई तो करके लाया करें, ये ऐसे कर रही है, हाथ लगा रही है. उनको क्या ये नहीं पता कि ये जानबूझ के नहीं कर रही है. इनको ये कैसे एज अ प्रोफेशनल इनको अब ये तो कह के वो चली गई अंदर.
Okay, your internet got stuck again. But okay, I don't know. It is very true, unfortunately, that the professionals working in, well, they are world over. This happens. I'm not just going to talk about our country. Professionals world over don't know how to handle a lot of things. When we talk about a child with special needs, it's not necessarily, like I said, psychological needs. It could also be that the child. Sorry, yes, you
Yeah,
got cut off.
sorry. Yeah, so I was saying that she went inside her room, but the moment from the room, the father took her daughter outside. He was so angry at her that तुम तमीज से नहीं बैठ सकती थी, तुम्हें पता नहीं है कितनी मुश्किल से हमें अपॉइंटमेंट मिली है, और वो रोए जा रही है. एंड वहां से मैं अपने बेटे को उठ के बाहर ले आई. मैं अंदर गई नहीं, मेरी नेक्स्ट बारी थी और मैं गई ही नहीं. बिकॉज आप एज अ प्रोफेशनल जब ये बात नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं, एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तो हाउ कैन यू मतलब कि इमेजिन के पेरेंट्स करेंगे, तो उनको तो पता ही नहीं है.
I think a lot of people, unfortunately, initially world over, and then now we talk about Pakistan, so there's a lot of unprofessional behavior in the so-called professionals. And they don't know how to, I mean, there's a lot of sweeping statements that even you see on social media, which I say, kyun aa raha hai? I mean, how dare you say something like this? And I'm not just talking about, psychological issues in children. Then there are children who are born intersex. But my God, or if they have a sexual orientation, when they realize that at teens, jo bhi hai, you have no right. You're helping them. If they're coming to you as a counselor, you have no right to, demean
Judge
them
them.
or judge them, anything, pass any kind of a comment.
Yeah.
If you are a religious counselor, if you're very religious and you believe that I'm not going to deal with transgenders or homosexuals, say it out loud that, you are, this is not
Yeah.
my area of
But I'm not
expertise.
comfortable that
Refer
I
to
don't.
you exactly, but
Yeah.
no, do not cause them more pain. I thought one of the first things that, you and I were taught was clients are at the priority. We are not even at
Yeah.
priority. There's a do no harm thing, which I don't think people
Mm.
understand.
Bilkul. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Falak, for giving so much time and being the host and the guest at the same time.
Can I just end with one thing? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No,
But
no, please.
when we were talking about a little bit about support or coping with this, I have talked about, family support, and especially if the grandparents and the uncles and aunts are in our culture, they're very, very involved, right? Um, and it's, if they're good, supportive, then that's wonderful. I think there's, but for parents, it's very important if you do not have support of family, and even if you do, one thing that's very important is seeking out support of like-minded or people who might be going through something similar. So,
Hmm.
support groups are very important. I sometimes, in my mind, I feel like, when we talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, forget alcoholism, but a support group or maybe a sponsor who's been through this, a kind of a mentor who's, a
Yeah.
mother who's reared her child with special needs, and now she can help someone with, a new mother. So why, we need such programs in our culture in Pakistan, in
Absolutely.
Karachi. So try and, seek out help. And at the end, do not be, if you're taking your child for therapy, if you believe that your child needs therapy but you're also overwhelmed, go ahead, seek out counseling. It's not like it's going to show that you're weak. It's not like you're going to be labeled. You're just overwhelmed, and sometimes we need someone to vent out to, who's not going to judge us, who's going to provide us the safe space. So often, and one of the best things that, again, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say this, is that one of the things we often, resilient people I've noticed do is that they find meaning in certain things, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you, by developing this page, which I'm coming back to, it's given you a medium to seek out like-minded people. It's given a medium to help others, and it's given a meaning and purpose in a way, right? So sometimes when we find meaning and purpose in something, it really helps us deal with that issue, whatever it
Yeah.
is. So, there are ways of, the coping strategies are numerous. It's
Yeah.
just that, we need to seek those out or get that help. So seek out help. There's no harm in that, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. I think this is one of the most important messages that need to be shared out, that it's not that you are going to be labeled weak, and seeking help makes you stronger, I believe, and makes you feel
Exactly.
safer within your skin. So I
Hmm.
think this is what there's this misconception around that, and really that, thank you so much, Falak, for saying that out loud, because we need to help parents, because yes, as you said, we talk about child so much that we don't talk about mothers a lot, and we need to. And I will mention this in my next episode as well, that
Uh-oh. Okay. Since Tuba has defeated this, I think her internet has an issue again. Um, what I will say is, sorry, I'm coming back to this factor, but hello,
hello.
are
Yeah.
you back?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
back.
you're back. Yeah. I was just, another thought came to my mind, and I was like, in every culture, but especially हम लोग इस्लाम में कहते हैं ना, माँ के पैरों के नीचे जन्नत है. So in that sense, we end up holding the mother up on some pedestal. She can do no wrong. We have to realize mothers can do wrong. No mother is
Yeah.
perfect. You learn to
Yeah.
forgive yourself.
Self, yes.
That concept of be kind to yourself. Why are we not kind to ourselves? We say be kind to others. Be kind to yourself also.
Absolutely. And give yourself, allow yourself permission to be sad, to be anxious, to be
Feel
like,
your
it's okay.
emotions.
Feels
Yeah.
your emotion. I think this is what has been conditioned, that to the mothers especially, that you have to be like a perfect wife, a perfect mother. You cannot make
Hmm.
mistakes. And if you make mistakes, feel guilty. And
Yeah.
if you take care of yourself, you are being selfish.
Oh, I hate that, right?
Yeah,
Prioritize yourself. Like you said, when you were unhappy, your child was unhappy. So prioritize your sleep. If you don't
yeah,
sleep well, you'll be more irritable the next day and you might lash
yeah.
out on your child, which is worse. So
This is worse.
prioritize yourself.
Yeah,
You know,
which
I
is
mean,
definitely going to affect all the relationships around you.
exactly.
Yeah,
I think that understanding is one of the primal things. And when you said that we don't talk about it, you met a lot of people. I think eventually, maybe sometime in the future, schools and every place there should be some kind of awareness seminars for every, somehow, whether it's a KGS or a Nixer or any place. Just need a
yeah,
lot of dialogue on mental health to understand.
yeah. And I think there now the change is happening
Yeah,
slowly, but it is happening.
it
So
is happening. True.
hopefully there will be in the near future we'll see more mentally healthy relationships.
Hopefully. Although
Hopefully.
sometimes if you look at our parents, they're like, हमारे साथ तो नहीं था, हम तो सब ठीक हो गया. तुम लोग की जनरेशन में ज्यादा है ये.
ज्यादा मसले हैं, सही बात है, ये मैंने बहुत सुना है. ये ऑटिज्म भी आजकल बहुत फैल गया है, पहले नहीं होता था, हमारे जमाने में ना ये ऑटिज्म था ही नहीं, ये अब आ गया है. कोरोना की तरह ये अब आ गया है.
अब आ गया. I guess there's a lot
बिल्कुल.
of, yeah, unreported भी होता है, and there's no denying that the world has changed. That also is a lot of acceptance that hormonal issues have changed, our
Yeah,
eating habits have changed, our interaction has changed, the environment, the pollution we live in has changed, the amount of exercise we have is changed, even the food we eat, uska content, uska protein and vitamin value or jo bhi nutritional value, sorry, everything is changed and everything is going to affect us
yeah,
because we are whole people, right? Our mind, body, everything is linked. भले आप ये समझें कि ओके आजकल ज्यादा होता है, फाइन. If you think that, fine, as long as you learn how to accept it,
yeah,
and then maybe when you need help you can get that help.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Falak, once again. And I'm
Most
really,
welcome.
I was really, really looking forward for this session as a mother because there were so many things that I wanted to talk. And even being a psychologist doesn't make me like a perfect mother. I do mistakes all the time, and I think this page is helping me also a lot. So thank you so much, Falak, for being part of
Most
this.
welcome. Thank you for
And
calling me and thank you for reading that article because I love
that
to
was so
write
well
things
written,
about
and I'm going
issues.
to
I love to.
for the members I'm going to share the link with the description of the live session also, so they could have a read, so they would know what in general is a summary of what we talked about.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you
As I
so
was
much,
saying, I
Falak.
prefer to write, so I write a lot.
You write excellent articles. Please keep that,
Thank you.
keep writing.
Thank you.
Okay, Falak, take
Okay.
care.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so guys, that was Falak Zehra. And firstly, I am extremely sorry about this today, but I think it fixed by the time session was halfway done. So I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. It must be annoying, but I'm grateful for Zehra to handle the live session on her own, and she have So on this note, I will now, and yes, on the description, I'll add the link to the YouTube. I'll upload it on the YouTube and share the link. And I'm going to share the link of the article she wrote, which inspired me to do this live session for my parents and mothers on this page. So hopefully this would have been helpful, and I'm glad to be back live for my page, and I'll post about the next session. Probably it's on Wednesday, and I'll post about it soon. So meanwhile, take care of yourselves, stay healthy, stay safe. Please, taking care of yourself right now means taking care of others emotionally, mentally, physically. Stay home as much as you can, and try not to take out your children out. It's a dangerous situation right now. So anyways, on that note, I'll say khuda hafiz and bye, take care.